A lot of things come actually back on safety and really feeling safe within yourself and within your body. And I think that is just really beautiful to see, because as soon as you start to open up to that, you also start to not only open up, but also sink into your body. And that is the most important thing with everything that you go through your life, to really open up, let it feel, let it in, but also then drop down again so you're grounded again.
Welcome to Journeys Through Change, a podcast that inspires women to let go of the fear and say yes to possibility. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, creator, and empowerment coach who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders ride the waves of change with ease and grace. I now work with women to step into change and unleash the power they have to create a life they love. Whether you're contemplating a change in your career, relationship, health, lifestyle, or anything in between, nothing's off the table. I'll be offering up simple insights to help you manage the ups and downs of change and sharing interviews with successful women who took a leap of faith to create the life they knew they were meant to live, sharing their wisdom, advice, and all the juicy lessons they learned along the way. So get cozy in your favorite comfy chair and let's get started. Our bodies are not just vessels to carry us through life. They are reservoirs of wisdom and emotion. Every experience, every trauma, and every joy we encounter leaves its mark on our bodies. Like silent witnesses, our bodies store this energy, often manifesting as discomfort or dis-ease when left unaddressed. Gianine Strang's passion for dance led her to the University of the Arts, where she immersed herself in the world of movement. However, life, as it often does, took an unexpected turn. Gianine experienced personal trauma that shook her to her core. Soon her body began to shut down, and she realized how it was holding on to the energy of her experience as well as the experiences of her past. This was a pivotal moment that set her on a path of deep healing. Once she began to tune in, she realized that she had grown up in a society that taught her to detach from her body, ignore its signals, and prioritize the mind over everything else. On her path to healing, she became a life coach, emotion and body code practitioner, and as founder of Movement Medicine, Gianine helps others explore the healing power of movement to reclaim the vibrant, powerful beings they are meant to be. Gianine, it is so great to have you with us today. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I often ask guests to kind of start where they want to, but I thought I would ask you this because just to kind of provide some context, where you grew up, where you are talking to us from now, and then we can talk a little bit about your evolution.
Yes, of course. So I live in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, and that is also sort of where I grew up. It really feels like my city. Like really, I love it here. I've always loved it here. Although I do have to say I am craving some sunshine in actual summer. So I'm not sure for how long I will love it here. But for now, I do.
That's good. So you've grown up in Amsterdam. You live there now. Tell us a little bit about, I know you went to university in the UK. Tell us a little bit about that journey for you.
So I went to university here in Amsterdam, but I did my internship in the UK. Yeah, so I did the 3 years of the dance academy. And then in my third year, I got to audition for companies that I wanted to dance for. And I did exactly that. I did my first audition ever, and I got accepted to my dream company. And I relocated to the UK and started dancing for them.
Oh my God. Now, what is your dream company?
Well, it was, because it is not anymore, because my work experience was not like that great, right? In the journey, I do have to say that, you know, when the universe is like giving you little signs, like this is not the right step for you, or this is not the right place for you. But I was so excited about going there that I just ignored all the signs until I got there. And then I was like, oh yeah, I really need to go home now. So that all turned out differently.
So it was an environmental type of thing that was not what you expected.
Yeah, it was just very unhealthy, the workplace itself. Like, we were not treated right at all. It was very old-fashioned and like very hard emotionally and mentally as well. It was not healthy.
How long were you there for?
I was supposed to be there for a year. And I got my first panic attack there after week 2. The thing is, because it was my dream, I went there with the intention, okay, I'm going to be an intern this year. And then next year I'm going to have a professional contract. And then I'm going to stay there for 2 years. And then I'm going to go to my next company that I want to go to. And then after week 2, that all started to crumble down. And I was like, okay, I need to get out of here. So after 6 months, I finally left.
And just backing up a bit, being in the dance arena, I can imagine or you don't know if you're going into a professional career. You don't probably know all the ins and outs of what happens and what that entails. But did you learn more as you went through this experience about that? Like, so in other words, was it this particular company that you were with, or was it the industry itself? You have to kind of brace yourself for certain things. I hate to say that because it shouldn't be, obviously. But what conclusions did you come to after this? Was it like, I'm not going to do professional at all? Or I just need to leave this particular company?
For me at that time, I didn't know. I was 21 years old. Like, it was my first official job. And at this moment, the only thing I knew was what is happening here is not healthy. I need to go home. And then COVID hit. So I was just in time. I was home and I was safe. And then COVID was like happening. And I was like, okay, I think I need to start like rethinking my life and rethinking everything that I'm meant to do. So that is really where that started. But I knew deep down inside me that dance wasn't something that I wanted to give up.
When you were little or younger, did you always have that goal to become a professional dancer?
I would like to say yes, but the answer is no.
Okay.
So I am a little sister. I have an older sister, and she always danced. And as a little sister, you obviously just want to do what your big sister does. So that's how I kind of rolled into it. And then I found out that I absolutely loved it and never stopped.
Now, does your sister still dance?
Yeah, she's also a professional dancer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you come back to Amsterdam, you say, what the heck was that? Now what am I going to do? And so what happened from there?
What happened from there is that I thought, okay, I'm going to move back home and everything is solved. But that was not really the case, right? So the panic attacks were still there. I was afraid to dance again because if you're told over and over and over again that you're not good enough, that you're doing it wrong, that you're weak, somehow that creeps into your mind and you start to believe that, right? That was what was happening with me as well. And then I knew that something needed to change, but I just didn't know what. And more importantly, I didn't know how as well. So I started looking for like coaches and like all these things. And I couldn't really find someone who fully understood the dance world, like really, really understood it and had all the like certifications to actually help me. So I can be a bit stubborn. So I decided to become that person for myself. So I decided to do a coaching certification and do some energy healing and really focus on that and focus on me. And then I came to the conclusion that I actually want to help people.
I love that. That's a good conclusion to come to.
Yeah.
Well, and especially as you go through that experience yourself, right? You had said that you had had some healing to do with your body in terms of like movement you had discomfort at a certain point. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it was really because the panic attacks and everything already started when I was living in the UK. And that compared with being so exhausted and I couldn't really eat, not because I wanted to lose weight or anything, but just because I was so tired. I couldn't cook. I love food. People that know me know that I absolutely love food. So I went from like 3 big meals a day to just 1 in the evening and then a big bag of chips. So it was crazy for me and for my body. And I thought that everything would be solved when I moved back, and that wasn't the case. And that was mainly because I think I kind of blamed myself in the beginning, especially. Like, how did I ignore all the signs, but also how can I allow someone else to treat me that way? And that was a part of me that I really needed to embrace as well and not just shove it away, but also just allow that to be there and allow all those feelings to be there and then forgive myself in the process.
I mean, when you think about those types of situations on the surface, it's like, wow, okay, sounds like a not so great work situation. I mean, if you look at it at a very top level, not so great work situation. But when you think about what that does to you internally and how, like you said, it forced you to look at some things too about, how do I want to be treated? How how do I want to move forward in my life? It brings up bigger questions than we ever imagine. So you come home, you are exhausted, you're having these stress, anxiety attacks and things like that. What then did you do after you started to get these certifications? Were you doing work on yourself? How was that all coming
Yeah, I
into
made
play?
sure to actually always have someone to hold me. So I made sure to always have a coach or like be in a coaching container and just to really work on myself, but also to be seen and to be listened to. And then I really started to implement more movement along the way as well and actually use that as a way of like releasing all those energies instead of just movement being something that I'm so afraid of. And I really need to like do it perfectly to just move and not have an opinion at all.
That's so great. It's kind of like just switching your relationship with movement, right?
Exactly.
Like moving back to where you began, where you loved it. So what was the connection point for you? Because I know you have this company where you work with others just to release trauma in the body, which is so huge. And, I've experienced that a lot with yoga and movement and releasing just energy that's been in our bodies for a long time. So
Hmm.
how did you get to that place where you decided how this all kind of comes together and figure out what to do from there?
It really started out with like me having lots of conversations and also with my sister because she was also in the like the healing world and a dancer. So that was a really great example for me to look up to at that time. In the beginning, it was mainly about like finding joy in movement again and therefore finding joy in my own body again and letting go of everything that happens in the meanwhile. And then I really started to focus more and more about like, okay, if this works for me in this way, how can I also make it work for someone who's not a dancer to actually also release things without like them going into their heads or like them being ashamed of certain things or like, so it really became like a research for myself. How can I help others with this? How can I help others with like releasing things? Not only
Mm-hmm.
energetically, because I'm also an energy healer and that's great. And I absolutely love to do that. But that also always means that the clients need me in order to release something, right? And that's where the part of reclaiming your power comes in because I also want my clients to be able to do it themselves and not to be dependent on me or someone else to heal them.
As we all know, change is inevitable. Sometimes it comes out of nowhere, leaving us to pick up the pieces and navigate our way through the unknown. Other times it's a decision we've made to step into a bigger version of ourselves or find more joy or fulfillment in our lives. Day by Day book was designed to help you face the discomfort of those shifts in life that are pushing you to that next level of growth and learning. It's a guided journal with a simple tracking system to manage your daily well-being during challenging times, setting you up for success no matter what life throws your way. Join our community of over 15,000 changemakers and get started on your daybook journey today. The time is now to step into change to create a life you love. To get your Day by Day book, go to livedaybyday.com. I'm obsessed with watching dance shows. Just am. I think it's just beautiful to watch. And I would think about when I was 13, 14, whatever, in my teens, I would have always loved to dance, but I don't think that I would have ever had the courage to.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about dance and confidence. This is personally, I always equated confidence with dance, right? Of like somebody being able to express themselves and not be locked in their body. Because I felt like for a long time, for many years, that was true for me, just not having that ability to express myself that way. Do you have clients that, whether they're suppressing things because of trauma related issues or not, feel intimidated by that? And if so, how do you bring them out of that?
I found a balance. So that means that I combine the mind with movement, with like working with the unconscious mind as well. So the main reason why people find it scary to move is because they're not used to it, right? And because they're not used to it, they become very critical of everything that they do. And by combining those three elements, you see them like come in quite stubborn and like quite, oh yeah, what am I supposed to do? This is uncomfortable, like all those things, right? But by working around those layers, you actually see that they're slowly peeling off those layers and they're slowly like stepping more into their own bodies and therefore are able to move. And I think what is really interesting about this, because I give online sessions, but I also host in-person events here in Amsterdam, is that the interesting thing to see is that often it just takes a minute or two.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they're in a safe space, maybe?
Yeah, because that's the most important thing, to build that safe space. And I am not doing that alone, because all the people who are there are doing that, right? And
Right.
everyone, like, there are people that did it multiple times, there are people that are doing it for the first time. But because you're all doing it together, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter what it looks like.
Well, and it seems like it's a more therapeutic experience than, okay, everybody, we're going to go do a Broadway show. And
Exactly.
the one thing that keeps coming to mind too is that disassociation. Because I think as I was explaining my own situation, and I look back on starting practicing yoga and really recognizing how disassociated I was with my body for so many years. And then finally kind of just reconnecting, which is very subtle, but it's something that you can recognize internally really quickly once it clicks. So that must be really interesting to watch people as they grow just before your very eyes.
It is absolutely beautiful. And I think what is also really important, what I forgot to mention, is that I never call it dance. It's movement. And even if there are dancers there, I always say to them, like, I don't want you to dance. I just want you to move your body. And that is really hard for dancers. Because you have training, so you have like certain ways that you want to move, and like, oh yeah, this would be cool on this beat, right? I really want them to fully let go of that,
right,
and not go into performance mode, if that makes sense.
That's like a different muscle, right? It's learning something new.
Exactly.
How did you make that connection? Like, was there a point that you can recall that you went, this is what I want to do? Or was it very gradual and just kind of something you experienced in yourself first?
I think it was actually very gradual. And I think it is also because of my sister. We started this together, and I started out as her assistant and just learning from her. And then at a certain point, she decided to go on a total different journey, right? And I was like, okay, but I really believe in this and I really want to continue with this. And then I was like, but how can I make it even more my own and use my own experience even more to actually give the most value to the people that I want to serve? And I do have to say, one thing that really led me to that is a different trauma.
Well, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
If you didn't learn the lesson once.
Yep. Give it twice.
Okay, so how did that change you?
Well, the interesting thing is it was not connected to dance at all. So that was actually really nice for me. But it left a really big impact on my body. So the interesting thing is, when I look back at it, it was actually very clear from the beginning, but I just didn't want to give the trauma the satisfaction to make me feel this way, right? Because we can be quite stubborn as human beings. But I was very, very dizzy. I was fatigued. I lost all my curls. I had the worst headaches. I had numbness in my arms and legs, and sometimes couldn't fully move. So there was a lot going on with my body. And over the months, it became worse and worse and worse. And then it came to a point that I actually couldn't go to the supermarket anymore, because I always felt that I was going to pass out, right? And I was like, okay, what is happening here? What can I do, right? And at that point, I really had to stop moving, because I couldn't really count on my body to have my back, if that makes sense. So I also stopped dancing for a while. And then I was like, okay, I think I need to do some tests and like maybe go to the whole Western medicine part of the things. And I did that. I did some blood work, and then everything came back perfectly healthy, and which was very annoying.
Yes.
And then my doctor actually took it really serious, which I never experienced, because I never have something, right? And if I had something, they always said, just rest. It's just because of your training schedule. Like, that was always the answer that I received. So for her to take it so serious and say, okay, I think you need to go to a neurologist, I was like, oh, what is happening here, right? I really started to freak out more. And then I went to the neurologist and they also did some tests. And then they went to do an MRI scan of my brain because they actually first thought that it was a brain tumor and then they thought that it was MS. And then I was like, okay, if it is MS, that would mean like a lot for my dance career as well and a lot for my business as well. Like, how am I going to navigate that? And they found these like white little spots inside my brain, but they weren't on the right places that they are with MS. So you also have that with MS, but they weren't on the right places. That sounds very weird, but I was like, okay, what does that mean?
But good news, maybe better news than having it, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. So they wanted to do like a follow-up scan and everything. And then they came to the conclusion that it was not MS, but they also didn't really know what it was. And that was the moment that I was really triggered because at that point I had been feeling that way for like 8 months. So my life had been on pause for like 8 months. You don't want it to be MS, but you also want to have an answer so you can deal with things, right? And I didn't get that answer. Really, in the beginning, my doctor asked me if I went through something or if there was a stressful situation. I said, yeah, there was a little thing, but that's not it. And then again, after all the tests, she said, are you sure that it doesn't have anything to do with the thing you went through? I was like, well, no, I don't think so. And then it was for like a month after that I finally started to realize that it was connected to the trauma. And for me, that was the first step of healing, was just accepting that.
Right.
And by accepting that, weirdly, things were starting to get better. But the thing that I really needed to do was dance and move and incorporate that in my life again. Because I had so much anger and I had so much frustration inside of me from the incident that couldn't really go out all those months because I was just not doing anything. So I just fed that energy with more and more and more and more, made that ball bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I was finally able to start moving again and accept it and just like let everything out through movement. And it was a hard period. It was an intense period. But I think if it wasn't for that, I think I would be still very sick, to be honest.
I just have been really fascinated by how we can bring things up and out of our bodies through movement. Like that to me was so groundbreaking to me when I came to that realization. And just even knowing it, like I haven't gone to a massage therapist years ago. And there's different touch points and things that can release, you can become really emotional. And it's just crazy to me what the body holds, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And so the fact that you found the antidote back with movement to me is not, it's not lost on me. It keeps bringing you back to that place. Is that how you describe do you help people to understand? Because I'm sure that's not something that most of us normally would know or think about when we're going through grief or stress or overcoming trauma. The first thing we want to do is go lie in bed, right? And that's the last thing that you should do because it's just keeping it stagnant.
Exactly. And I think what is really important is that the end, all that emotion is energy emotion, right? So if you see it that way, by not doing anything, the energy that is supposed to be emotion can't be emotion until you start to do it again. Right. So in that way, it is actually quite logical, but because we're not like really familiar with that and we don't hear it a lot, we turn to say, okay, just give me a pill and that's all I need. But your body can actually do a lot.
I just think that the work you do is really, it's really important, but it's also fascinating because think about what you just said. There are so many of us out there that go to a doctor and want to get the antidote or the pill to feel better when there's so much healing that your body can do on its own if you just allow it. And I think most of the time, I'm sure you get people that come to you that it takes that time to sort of release control. It's kind of what I like to say. Like, I feel like that's a really powerful thing to finally just kind of surrender to it. And then it starts to happen, but you really have to not resist.
Yeah, that's what was happening with me as well. Like I always use myself in everything that I tell my clients as an example, right? I am the living proof of that, like multiple times in my life as well.
Because it's human nature, right? That's our go-to place, is to just kind of get back to that comfort zone. You don't want to step out of that. Now, for the people that you work with now, what are some of the breakthroughs that you've made with people? Are there any of note where somebody's come to you and really been feeling, lost and really in a place that felt very dark? And have you seen that evolution within other people?
Yeah, I think the beautiful thing is that often a lot of things come actually back on safety and really feeling safe within yourself and within your body. And I think that is just really beautiful to see, because as soon as you start to open up to that, you also start to not only open up, but also sink into your body. And that is the most important thing with everything that you go through your life, to really open up, let it feel, let it in, but also then drop down again so you're grounded again. It is such a subtle switch also in the body, but you can totally see it. Like also when I give workshops and people come in and you just see them walking in and they're a bit nervous and a bit shy, right? But then in the end, there you see them walk out of the space and this is more open and like they're glowing more. It is just such a subtle transformation, but it does a lot. For me, that is really why I do this work, just to give that to people.
Well, and it's a tool people can use that they can walk away with and use for the rest of their lives, right?
Exactly.
If you start to recognize that connection, that's huge.
Yeah.
Gianine, what is coming up for you next? I mean, you've been doing this work for how many years now? A couple of years since you've been back?
3-4 years.
Oh, wow. Right. Because pandemic, I keep thinking
Yeah.
Time is warped. What is next with movement medicine? Anything exciting or of note, or just in your life? It doesn't have to be with movement medicine.
Well, there's actually a lot of things happening, and I always call it movement medicine world. I don't know why, but I just like to call it that
It is
way.
a world. It is a world in and of itself.
I know. I actually just launched my new signature program. It is online.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It is like movement. It is a lot of different tools for yourself that you can do at home as well. It has a lot of like how the brain works, the connection with the body. So it really is a deep dive within and really about reclaiming your power in many areas of your life. And that to me is something that we can all do. I think even more important, we can all do it, but you also get to gift yourself that, because you get to claim that. And I think that is really important to me.
I love that. I'm going to check that out. That is something that I would sign up for in a heartbeat. Well, Gianine, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's later in your day, so it's your evening now. So have a wonderful rest of the evening. But thank you so much for joining us and telling us your story. We really, really enjoyed it. I'm staying in touch because I want to hear more about what you do through movement. It's fascinating to me.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute blast to be here.
Thank you. All right. Well, that's it for now. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Journeys Through Change podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or really wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us and leave a review if you've enjoyed this episode. And share it with a friend or on social media to spread the good word, so more women like you can find us and join in on the fun. For more information on the podcast or Day by Day book, go to livedaybyday.com.